Shawn Ray here with Flex Wheeler and David Baye just after the prejudging of the 52nd anniversary of Joe Weider's Mr. Olympia here in Las Vegas at the Orleans Arena where it all went down. Dave, I'm going to start with you. Phil Heath, does it look like a six-time Olympia to you?
I think so. Again, it wasn't a knock it out of the park type thing. I think it was close between him and Shawn and Dexter. There was a handful of guys in the mix. It wasn't the walkout and slam the door like we saw. For me, the last time was in 2013. Right. But I think he's going to be good enough to win. It's a two-day show. He's got to come back and bring it tomorrow. He was pretty good for tonight, though. You know, normally we're used to seeing a Phil a little bit okay on Friday, really come back and nail it on Saturday. So he was pretty good for tonight, which leaves the question, is he going to come back tomorrow and really slam that door and be that much better? Right.
And Flex, you didn't have very much experience competing over a two-day period. Yeah. I think we did it once in 1997, and you just got done commenting that Phil is a different bodybuilder on the second day.
Yeah, he is. I mean, what's going to be really interesting, like what Dave said, is normally Phil doesn't nail it too much on that first day, and then he just really brings on fire the second day. So being that he's that close to perfection tonight,
right,
I'm looking for him to down there just try to distance himself like a freaking Usain Bolt, like I said before. Right. You know, first 50 meters is close, and then he just closed the door on everybody. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can make those differences, or if he just hangs in there. Because if he hangs in tomorrow, he has a fight on his hands.
Yeah, because we mentioned earlier that Dexter's not a bodybuilder that changed too often, even Sean Roden, but right, Phil's changes are much more dramatic. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Kevin Levrone, 52 years old, 1 year older than you, me.
If he's telling the truth.
Well, yeah, if he's telling the truth. How impressed were you?
You know, first and foremost, I don't know if I have the ability to do what he's done. Secondly, if I was him and I was going to do it, I would take at least a year of real training. Listen, it's a reason why, you know, it's hard and difficult for a 52-year-old to compete with an on-fire 30-year-old. Those guys have been running full speed for 13 years that he's been at idle. You can't really expect somebody to close that type of distance in 6 months. Now I'm saying that, kudos to him. Yeah. Fuck, he brought it on stage. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. He was able to do that. He set everybody up, all the naysayers. Is that the Kevin Levrone that me and you competed against? No, it's definitely not.
Well,
but
let's give it a little bit of perspective, Dave. You were in on this because I said that Kevin was not going to be a top 10 Olympian. Just too many things that were going on. He looked phenomenal in the gym. He has that Dennis James gym physique. The upper body was coming back really quick. But as you know, the legs are the hardest thing to come back. Father Time is undefeated. And Kevin walking out there, huge round of applause. People love to see that nostalgic thing. We heard the music Creed, but the physique wasn't what we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to step outside of my analyst position here for a minute and say Kevin's placing is what it is. Yep. As far as a competitive bodybuilder. As far as a 52-year-old putting together an incredible physique, that was amazing. But again, for me as somebody who started off as a fan of you guys and Kevin and seeing him come out and did what he did, it was an honor for me. So I don't care whether he wins or takes last place, and I don't care how cliche it sounds. It was an absolute honor for me to sit in that seat and to hear the name Kevin Levrone announced, walk out on stage to Creed after 13 years. I mean, yeah, you know, I'm a fan first and foremost, and I catch some heat a little bit for being a professional that steps aside and isn't a fan sometimes. But again, to be able to see Kevin Levrone step on stage, something I never thought I would see in my lifetime. So, like I said, I don't care if he walks away with first place or a consolation trophy. It was an honor to see Kevin on stage. I'm blessed, and that's a strong word, but I feel like I'm blessed to be able to say that I got to see Kevin Levrone on the Olympia stage. So
it's interesting.
He won't be a loser.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that
I'm pretty confident he'll get a standing ovation come tomorrow. There's no way the man's going to lose.
He's 52. He knows what took place tonight. He was there in Helsinki, Finland when he was first runner-up to Dorian Yates when he won his first Olympia, and he stood next to the Incredible Hulk. For him and I, that was a huge honor. I think for these bodybuilders that were there tonight, they can tell their kids they stood on the stage with the Maryland Muscle Machine. He obviously had to have the game face on and believe that he was going to come in here and stand next to Phil Heath. He stood next to Phil Heath, and he got the photo to prove it. But I think we're just honored to see Kevin back on stage. So we're not going to beat him up because I don't think there's a guy out there that would have done what he did tonight.
He's the winner of being able to do what he did tonight, definitely.
And this is going to be a competition, I think, for second and third, and that's a huge implications because if Phil Heath does get his sixth place, who's second and who's third?
To me, it's close between Dexter and Roden, and it has been for years. So this is nothing new for us to talk about on camera. Shawn Roden came out. He had a couple of poses I thought he beat Dexter in. A couple of shots I thought Dexter had Shawn in. So I went back and forth with those two guys. Dexter at 46, no signs of slowing down. I mean, he looked fantastic. Roden looks like he put on a little bit of muscle. I don't know that Roden was as super razor sharp dry as we've seen him. Now, granted, he is in fantastic condition, so maybe a little off for Shawn Roden is still great. I think we'll probably see him dry up tomorrow and make things even a little bit more interesting than they were tonight.
What can Dexter do to hang on to that first runner-up if he's delegated to second place tomorrow? How does he fight off a guy like Shawn Roden right now?
I don't think he needs to do anything other than what he's been doing right now. Arguably, like Dave said, I've seen him trading back on poses and everything like that. But when you look over the overall physique, Dexter is drier and tighter than Shawn. Another thing, I think Shawn is getting into a mistake era where he's thinking size is actually better. Right. Now, if you imagine Shawn coming down 5-7 pounds of dryness, damn, that's a whole different person to deal with.
I was there when you were 216 when you won your first Arnold Classic, so that leaves the door open for 4th, 5th, and 6th, which is interesting because we saw Rolly walk out there and look like a freak. Yeah. So now we're dealing with 4th, 5th, and 6th. Tell me about the players.
It was all kinds of mixed up. One of the things we talk about so much is all the guys want to get looks. Cedric brought it up in the press conference. I just want to get a look. Head job Steve Weinberger mixed these guys up big time. We had guys in the first call out, also in the second, and the third. At the end of it, though, we had 5 guys in a third call out, or I should say a second to last call out, rather. We had Josh Lenardowitz, Cedric, William Bonac, Rulli, and Ramy. And it looks like Bonac was in the middle. Bonac could be in a 4th place spot, well-deserved. The surprise to me was Ramy being on the outside. Now, Ramy is one of those guys where everybody's talked for years, like he really just has to nail his conditioning, and it's going to be lights out for Phil, it's going to be lights out for everybody else. It's interesting because his conditioning was the best I've seen him, and it almost looks like he lost a little bit of that wow factor. Like he wasn't as full. Yeah, you see him at 300 pounds, and he just comes out and he's like this mass monster. And granted, he's still huge. Let's not take that for granted. But being a little bit leaner, I think he lost some of that fullness and that freak factor. The freak to me of the show, and who I said was going to push Phil before we saw him in the lineups, was Rulli. He walked out in the free posing. And I mean, that was some of the craziest shit I've ever seen.
And that's the thing. You see somebody by themselves, and wow. But you put them next to guys like a Phil or a Dexter, and you can get to put more perspective. But I think the surprise was William Bonac. William Bonac came out of nowhere. I think his stomach is a little bit watery, but other than that, he's so much muscle.
Brother from another mother. I don't know what this dude is made of, but man, he just has size upon size and conditioning also. And not only that much size, but it flows together very well. I mean, the guy is tremendously monstrous. I think he won over a lot of fans. It's going to be interesting to see what he looks like tomorrow also. But the thing what you were saying about Rolly, I mean, I don't think we've seen that type of muscle and that type of physique. And he's also another person that I wish would maybe come down just about 5 pounds of fluid, and just he would be lights out, you know what I mean?
Let's get to the best of what's left. I mean, we saw Dallas McCarver, Justin Compton. Did he deliver or not?
We had a handful of names coming in. Dallas and Justin, obviously some of the younger guys. Dallas wasn't as sharp as he was last year at this show. He was better than he was in Chicago in July, but he was sharper last year at this Olympia, and I think that hurt him a little bit. Obviously, he's a little bit bigger, but he's a guy where he's got enough size, he's got to focus on conditioning. Same for Justin Compton. Justin, at this point in his career, everybody's going to compare him against his benchmark in his 2014 Europa win where he was peeled to the bone, and he just hasn't gotten back to there. Now, mind you, these are two guys who brought really good conditioning overall as bodybuilders, but people are looking for them to be crisp and shredded and bring crazy detail. They didn't quite do it. Now, you're talking young guys that are in their 20s. They're probably still, Dallas, I think, will probably squeak into that top 10. Justin, maybe the top 12. So, all in all, when you're in your 20s and one of the best 12 bodybuilders in the world, that's not too bad. Those guys put a lot of pressure on themselves, though, and I know they're both disappointed right now.
Well, let me talk about the one. That's what they call him, Cedric McMillan. Again, is this a promise unkept? I know he's been working with Aceto for a while. Several of Aceto's guys were off. Can you put any of the onus on the trainer? Because if he's not delivering, is it the athlete or the trainer?
No, because the athlete's a boss.
Okay.
He also pays that person. you have to have the final decision, or you have to relinquish control to listen to that person. Hence, you're still in control. If you relinquish control, you're in control to do that. So I can't put it on a trainer. At some point in time, the athlete has to say, I don't like what I see.
Or Cedric.
Or Cedric has to say, I don't like what I see in the mirror. We need to change things. And if there's an argument, at the end of the day, he needs to put his foot down and make the final decision on what he's
You
doing.
think he looks like he's a guy in need of a desperate change to actually fulfill that potential, or is this the best we're going to get?
It's still money on the table.
Yeah.
It's still a lot of money on the table. I mean, Cedric, overall ability to deliver, I would say he's not even 70% there yet. And that's a lot of money left on the table.
Well, there's a whole lot of things going to be answered tomorrow night, but we had a lot more that took place earlier. We had some of the 212 guys. We just got done witnessing that.
Yeah, the 212 guys, Flex Lewis, I don't see any way he's not getting his fifth. He's not necessarily the thickest guy. I think David Henry's upper body is more impressive than Flex's. He's not the most shredded guy. I think some of the other guys were leaner, but Flex Lewis is really the best package of a bodybuilder that's on that 212 stage. He's very complete from head to toe. His back, and you're going to see this in the pictures, and his rear lat spread. He's losing some ground to Ahmed and Jose Raymond, which were the guys in the last top 3 call out. But again, as a total package, nobody's beating Flex
I think
Lewis.
he's done enough to win. He's just got those calves, those quads, and the shape.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was always looking at the message shots we were going over. I was getting beat up on some of the things I was saying. But listen, it's not a body part show.
Right.
And definitely he does lose some poses, especially to the rear, to the other guys, especially Ahmad. I got to tip my hat to the guy. The guy's on fire. But it's an overall competition. And I just don't think they've done enough. Now, definitely Flex, he appears to be a little bit smaller than he was last year. But I think he's still going to edge the guys out. And I'm looking for him to fill up a little bit and shut that door on those guys.
I think he will. And we had some final results on the women's side. Give us the results real quick of the bikini competition.
Bikini competition. After 3 years of Ashley Kaltwasser winning, we have a new bikini champion, Courtney King. Just turned 23 a few days ago. Came off a big one in Phoenix. I thought she looked fantastic. Apples and oranges in the bikini division. We can talk about that all day. Yeah. But a good win for Courtney. She was in good shape, great physique, and congratulations to her. And
it sounds like we're getting routine with this, the women's fitness champion.
Yeah, I mean, Oksana to me is the best fitness champion of all time. Some of the other girls, Adela especially, might have more titles, and no disrespect to Adela whatsoever, a great champion. But to me, when I talk about a performer, an athlete, I don't think it gets any better than Oksana, and I think we might be looking at the greatest of all time. And when she retires, it might be a little bit early to say that. I don't know if you're ever going to see anybody better. She does more than just pick a theme and do a routine. She tells a story. There's drama. There's excitement. The whole crowd just really gets into it. There's such a different crowd reaction when you're here at these shows. There's just a different crowd reaction when Oksana's on the stage to everybody else.
She's a performer.
That's
what keeps her above, head and shoulders above the competition.
Competition.
Do we have another final or no?
No, that was it.
Okay, so what's coming tomorrow?
Tomorrow at the Expo Hall, we have men's physique and classic physique. That's going to be at 10 o'clock, but it's going to be prejudging and finals. Okay. And then we also have finals for the women's physique tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Then tomorrow night at 7 o'clock here, we're going to have the finals for the 212, finals for figure, finals for men open.
All right, well, come back and join us here at musculardevelopment.com for all your finals, your photos, your videos, and the interviews. We'll get some athletes up here to talk to you guys. But for right now, Flex Wheeler, David Baye, I'm Shawn Ray, musculardevelopment.com.